He served California over the years as not only a leader, but a successful businessman and environmental steward. Today, as principal of Canyon Capital Realty Advisors and chairman of the Canyon Johnson Urban Communities Fund, he is focused on investing in, improving, and creating residential, rental, and mixed-use properties in urban communities across California. Please join me in a very warm welcome to our former treasurer, Bill Angelides.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. Will, thank you so much for that introduction. It's great to be here at the Green California Summit, and I want to start by thanking each and every one of you who are at the forefront of this revolution, whether you're in the public sector, whether you're in the private sector, for doing all you can to make the green revolution a reality. And I want to say that it's good to be with the pioneers because, you know, there's a lot of people out there talking about greening the economy, talking about being in clean energy, but it's a little bit like high school sex. Everyone's talking about it, but not that many people are really doing it yet. And those who are doing it aren't doing it that well. So it's great to be here with you. And I'm very excited to speak with you today about how we build a clean energy, good jobs, made in America economy that will be the foundation for this country's economic prosperity in the 21st century. We come together today at an extraordinary moment. It's a time of crisis. It's a time of struggle for many people in this country and around the world. But it's also a time of limitless possibility because we have a chance for the first time in decades to remake the American economy. One built not on financial manipulation, but one built on sustained economic progress, the creation of real wealth, an economy of purpose and responsibility, and as important as anything else, restoring the notion of equity of opportunity, broad participation in our economy. I come to you today not just as a fellow Californian, but I come to you as chair of the Apollo Alliance. For those of you who don't know about Apollo, we are a national coalition of Americans from disparate walks of life, environmental leaders, labor leaders, business leaders, social justice leaders, who are all committed to the notion that we can build this clean energy, good jobs made in America economy, and that we can make a national commitment in investment in policy and political will and capital to transform our economy over the next decade. We take our name from America's first Apollo mission. In 1961, John Kennedy stood before this nation and committed to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. We achieved that goal. And in the course of doing that, we mobilized scientists and innovators and inventors and workers all over this country. In fact, here in Sacramento, there were at one time 20,000 people working at Aerojet General building the Saturn booster rockets that propelled Apollo 11 to the moon. We believe we can once again reach for the stars. And when John Kennedy made that commitment, he made a real commitment. He backed it with resources and with political will. And at the end of the day, we achieved our mission and we created a whole new generation of science and technology that's powered this country for decades. As we gather today, we face an unprecedented convergence of enormous challenges. We are a nation perniciously dependent on foreign oil, putting our economy, our environment, and our national security at risk. We are sending $500 billion a year overseas to regimes deeply hostile to our values. We are putting men and women in harm's way, fighting wars to protect our oil supply lines. We are all conscious of the science and reality of the imminent threat of global warming. We've watched as more and more powerful storms have battered our communities, and we now watch as drought ravages men and women across this globe. And now we are seeing the collapse of the artificial economy of the past few decades. We're seeing 12.5 million Americans out of work, people who have worked hard all their lives worried about putting food on the table. It's a moment for this nation to rise up once again. In the midst of all this turmoil, though, there is hope and there is belief And there is an understanding that if we apply ourselves, we can, in fact, restore an economy of sustained economic strength, and we can do so in a way that preserves our planet. The election of President Obama and more progressive majorities in Congress have already made a huge difference. But let's be clear, this is the beginning, not the end. This is the first set of steps on the journey, not the culmination of the journey. In November of 2008, and the stimulus bill just passed, were our opportunity to make change, an opportunity to restore the middle class, an opportunity to confront global warming, an opportunity to empower all those who have been left out and locked out and left behind in our economy. To succeed in the green economic revolution, we're going to have to think big, and we're going to have to organize relentlessly. And for all of you, both in the public and private sector, we're going to have to be willing to take risks and take chances. Winning this battle means that we have to continually push for significant investments in the new green economy. The stimulus bill was a good start, but we have to sustain it over time. And that means investments in energy efficiency and renewable energy and public transportation. It means retooling America's industrial might. It means continued resources for research and development, and as important as anything else, it means educating and training America's workforce for the 21st century green economy. It means that now that the stimulus is passed, we must immediately apply our efforts to passing a climate legislation that caps carbon emissions, reduces them, and forever makes the playing field even for renewable and clean energies. And that will be a battle. And we have to organize day and night, because unless we send the right price signals, unless we apply the external cost of fossil fuels, we'll never have the economic conversion we need. It means working day and night consciously to change economic policies to make sure this clean energy revolution doesn't just benefit the few. We've now had 3 decades of very deliberate policies in this country that have ended up with the largest economic inequality, job inequality in our nation's history. And today, the largest income inequality, wealth inequality among developed nations in the world. In 1980, the average CEO made 42 times the average worker. By 1990, it was 85 to 1. By 2000, it was 500 to 1. We have to make sure that the green economic revolution ties public investments and policies to the creation of jobs that can support families across this nation. Jobs that have career ladders. Jobs that give true opportunity to participate in the possibilities before us. And finally, to make this revolution real, it means all of you, entrepreneurs, local officials, state officials, have to apply these new policies at the ground level. It means, for example, local communities developing real land use plans that make real the promise of compact, transit-oriented, walkable communities. It means investments in public transit. It means ratcheting up constantly energy efficiency standards in a country where 70% of our electricity consumption, 40% of our carbon emissions comes from the energy we use to heat and cool our buildings. We've got big work ahead of us now. The Apollo Alliance, for the last 5 years, we've been hard at work trying to build a case for the bold agenda of investments. Last year, in the run-up to the presidential election, we unveiled something called the new Apollo Plan. For those of you who haven't been to our website, ApolloAlliance.org, I want you to go look at it. We've laid out a $500 billion 10-year plan to move America to a clean energy, good jobs economy. And elemental to that are both investments as well as climate legislation policy that will shift our economic direction. When President Obama won the election, we went hard at work putting together our best recommendations for what to include in the stimulus bill. And we're going to continue to push in Washington and mobilize locally for our agenda. And we're excited, as is Mike, about for the first time this nation has made in the stimulus bill a true commitment to clean energy. $100 billion of investments in energy efficiency, smart grid, public transportation, in brownfield development, in green jobs training,